Like you said, I am Rachel McLawhon. I work at SAS in our global academic programs, which means that I work with faculty and students on integrating SAS, analytical tools, the skills that students need to know to be great workforce professionals into curriculum, trying to work on some of that skill building while they're still in school, while they have very moldable minds, so they're not waiting until that first job to learn the analytical tools that they might need to succeed. So I'm going to be talking through one of the SAS products that we have, Model Studio, and how we integrate with open source. There's a lot of places where SAS integrates with open source. I am a little bit newer to modeling, and so Model Studio has been great for me because you'll see there's a bit of code, but also a lot of point and click, which students also love as they are kind of in this learning space. So I'm just going to hop into a demo real quick. So let's get up, and I'm going to be working in SAS Viya for Learners. So SAS has lots of different platforms, SAS Viya being one of them. It's kind of a newer one, and it's all about the analytics lifecycle. So we try to package all of the big SAS products into a cloud-based free resource for students and faculty to work with so that they have something to actually get their hands on while they are learning, doing their practice, getting those skills. You'll notice here that we do have two buttons. Either you're going to launch software, that's the traditional SAS stuff, but we also have an integrated Jupyter Hub instance, which has the R, Python, and SAS kernels already pre-installed, which is another great place we like to send students if they are just very coding focused and they want to be able to switch between the different languages when they are learning and practicing. I'm going to hop into the software because we're going to do traditional SAS with that R integrated in there. We land on just kind of like a home page here. We're going to very quickly hop into our Model Studio where you're going to build models. Here's kind of just, I like to think of this almost like your Google Drive. This is where all of your files are stored, but then you can hop into docs or sheets or slides, whatever you need. So in the top corner, I'm going to go over to build models. Again, Viya is all about the entire analytics lifecycle. We want to be able to bring in your data, do everything from kind of just taking a look at it, seeing the metadata, doing some prep for your data, visualizing it with some nice pretty graphics so that you can kind of start to understand what you've got, and then jump into actually building models, managing them, deploying them. We're hopping right into build models. And I already created a model because the last thing you guys want to see me do is try doing all of this from scratch. So we're going to go ahead and open up my use R demo here. And so in this interface, again, focused a lot on some point and click here, where we first just see the data set. So you have the ability to look through, what do my variables look like? Are there any that we want to assess for bias? Are there any that we want to maybe reject because there's too many values, or it's collinear with another variable that we have? You have these modifications here where you can kind of change things up and decide what data you want to work with. So this is a little bit of kind of some of the data prep you can see here. But then we want to hop into pipelines. That's where we really want to start to build our models. So under pipelines, I have two pipelines already built out. Again, in the student world, we like to start them off with something already in there. So we have lots of different templates. So if I were to come in here and try to build a new one, I can say this is going to be my intermediate template. And we can come down here and browse. You can also start from scratch, but we have a lot of them preloaded in here that are just going to throw different models in there based on if you have an interval target, a class target, if you want to do some auto-tuning. This is a shared platform, so you'll see that students have also saved their own templates in here, which can kind of is sometimes nice, so that you do have something that a whole class will work with. But you can start any of these so that you have a starting point for, okay, what models do I even use if I have a class target. What models work best with that? So you can choose that here. You can also automatically generate the pipeline, and it'll set a time limit, and it'll look at your variables, it'll look at the different models that are available, and it'll kind of just run through this process of trying to pick out what's going to be best. Do we need to add imputation? Are we going to want some ensemble model in there? It's going to run behind the scenes for you. But I already have two, and so we'll just jump right into the SAS and R one. Again, the advanced one was just a template, and I like to have that in there just to show you some additional features. But here is our pipeline. Once again, we're trying to be as much visually appealing, interactive as possible, since I am in the academic space, and allowing students the ability to kind of play around, if you will, have some set defaults, and the ability to enhance and go a little bit deeper as they need. Always starting off with this data. Again, we're bringing in the data. Maybe we want to do some imputation here. If we click on the imputation node, you have lots of options for what you want to do. Do we want to have a specific cutoff for if we have 50% missing, this is when we start imputing. If it's just a few, maybe we don't. How we want to handle our different imputing. If we want to do class inputs, we want to do a count as the imputation method, and so forth. So we have some stuff set in here, but you also have the ability to change this. The fun stuff here is the different models. So again, I work at SAS. I know SAS probably the best, and I will even say I know these SAS stuff best. I don't know how to code a logistic regression in SAS. It's like proc logistic, but I don't know all of the modifications there. So this is helpful for picking out kind of what link function I want. Again, there's defaults already, so if I don't want to worry about that, I don't have to. Once we get into the actually R integration here is when we get to see some code. So we have both a decision tree and a forest that was built out. I like the forest one. Honestly, it's the simplest code SAS can't handle that as nicely, I'll be honest. So the forest model I think is very sleek, and we actually have a code editor. So you're doing your native R in here. So we have some like preamble stuff, just some reminders for what you want to use, some of those dummy variables that SAS has, and then you just start typing your code. So we're bringing in the random forest library. We're building out our model by a random forest. We're using the DM model formula. We're doing 100 trees. I forget what this option is. And then we're using our DM train DF and saying we do want our importance. Then we're scoring down here in this section. So we're making our predictions based on the probability. We're putting that into our data frame, and then we're adding in our churn or no. So maybe back up. Our data set's all about if a customer is going to churn. So we're trying to decide, hey, is this customer someone who is really engaged with us? We think that they're a great customer, or do we maybe need to send them some incentives because we think that they might leave and they might go to a different like they want to go to Verizon rather than the current network that they are on. And then we're going to do a little bit of plotting here. We're just doing a mean squared error plot, and then we're writing out our variable importance. Our code, cool. I think the output is the coolest part here. So we can look at the results for each of these. I already ran the pipeline, so we can kind of come in here and we can look at the results for an individual node. So we'll see our imputation things here, how we made changes. We can see the R code that was generated, including all of the additional things that we brought in from our data pane, where we said, well, okay, what is rejected? What is going to be in our model? What is the input? Things like that. So we can see the generated additional R that was created. just behind the scenes. And obviously we have our user code here that we typed. Might have some output here. So this is kind of the talk back to, are there any issues? If this didn't run, if we got a big red X at the end of this model, then we would be able to look here and say, okay, what went wrong? Where did I mess up my R syntax? And then we have some predicted variables. So kind of just the top 10 observations from the input that we think are kind of our highest probabilities here. We also have an assessment tab that's automatically created through this. So we can toggle between if we want to see cumulative lift, if we want to see our gain. It's interactive, so we can see, okay, this is for the training partition versus our test and validation are a little bit lower, what we might expect to see. We're seeing some event classification down here. Makes it very nice to take in all of the output that you are getting. So this is the results for an individual node. But notice at the end of running all of our models, we did a model comparison, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to run all of these models every single time. I want to know which one's going to be the best predictor. Which one do I want to actually put into my deployment? Do I want to run on a daily basis to let my salespeople know, hey, who do we offer an incentive to? Who do we think is going to leave? Who are the customers that they're good? So we'll come into the results here, and we'll see that I picked the R for us because it's also the champion model here, based on our KS statistic, but we see how the other ones kind of match up. Now we could change which statistic we used. We can also take a look here and say, okay, where maybe, I want to do it based on my lift. So based on my highest lift, the decision tree is actually the best model for us. So you have the ability to actually see everything, not just the statistic that you have, that you said, this is going to be my champion model. Once again, we also have assessment. So we can see how all of the models line up to each other. So we have cumulative lift, gain, response percentage, play around with that. Again, all these are exportable if you need to be able to give your business leader a reason to say, this is the model you want to use, and here is why. We see ROC or accuracy and different fit statistics. So I love how this outputs in a very human readable way with very little code needed from R. If I did say I wanted to do something more, I do have additional nodes. So I built this out by dragging and dropping things like my data mining pre-processing over, so I could do a little bit of clustering on my data beforehand. If I wanted to add in that, actually, ensemble's up here. If I wanted to add in my ensemble, I could add it in up here. Maybe I have to, it's difficult to add that ensemble. And all of these. And then I want to insert, right click. I can add an ensemble model. There's different ways that you add these in and make all of those modifications. Now, this is a shared environment, so maybe multiple people are working on a project at the same time. At the end of the day, you can see whose pipeline is the champion of all of the pipelines. So you might have kind of different, you might be doing like an advanced, an intermediate, you might have your open source, you might have all different pipelines. You do have a pipeline comparison that will say, okay, across all of these different projects, which one is actually my champion? And again, you get all of these statistics from that as well as insights. So kind of wrap it up with a pretty bow here to tell you this champion model for this project is gradient boosting from the advanced pipeline. It was chosen because of this. It's something that we have for students to just copy and paste. This is your output. This is kind of your presentation at the end of the day, what you can say, this is why I built this is how I chose this, and this is the next steps that we see. So all in all, we get a mix here. Again, SAS loves working with open source. We are a privately owned company. Big SAS does cost a lot of money, but in recent years, we've recognized how impactful it is to have all of these integrations and make everything talk, because it's not always one versus the other, right? R was our champion in this in a SAS application. So creating these to all talk and make it very approachable for students has been a big lift for my team to actually make career-ready individuals. Are there any questions?